Hi guys, welcome back to Higurashi no Naku Koro ni. We are heading into the final chapters, I'm not sure. Usually there's 12, sometimes there's 12 plus an epilogue, of this book. And there's still a lot of stuff Rika needs to do in order to stop things. And we also know there's another book. So I'm very curious as to how this is going to play. I would feel so sad if she died and got reset after all the hard work everybody did. I don't know if it would be the same. And it's one of the most interesting things is at the beginning of this book. Remember how she said that it seemed like Tomitake and Takano dying led to the people going crazy. Well, it doesn't seem like that's connected actually at all. They just have this virus, and in Reina's chapter, these really bad things are happening to her, right? And then she murders somebody and she's in a bad state already, right? And then, I'm sure even maybe Takano infected her. Or she was already infected. We knew that. We knew that from before because she was already infected. But Takano definitely amplified that, right? So yeah. So that happened before anyone even died. She murdered somebody before anyone even died. So I think the world that Rika wants is one where nobody murders anyone else. Satoko's safe. Shion's not a murderer as well. Just that kind of world. And also she lives. So I don't know how this is gonna go, and I'm very excited. So let's stop talking about it and let's get started. I'm scared though. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I'm terrified. I am terrified for our sweet little Rika. Alright, let's go. When I woke up, the first things I saw were Satoko and the calendar. The first one to wake up is supposed to tear yesterday's date off the calendar. Sometimes we both tear the calendar by mistake, so the date ends up 2 days ahead. Satoko likes to tear the calendar, and that makes her wake up early every morning. That would usually make me smile, but I felt devastated as soon as I saw the 22 on the calendar. It's going to happen today, June 22nd, the day I die. Oh, good morning! Good morning, Rika! Oh, morning, you two. You too? I like how Rika's just not hiding it at all now. Are you still asleep? Meep. There's someone else living in this house other than you and I. I just said good morning to that person as well. Hey! Don't try and spook me like that! Satoko won't be able to sleep without holding my hand tonight. Sometimes I feel like Satoko can see Hanyu, and it's as if 3 of us are living together. That would be a lot of fun. It was time to go to school, but my body felt heavy. The day I was going to die, knowing that I didn't even feel like going to school. The more I repeated the same life, the more precisely I can detect my day of death. I always die on the day I feel this way. Rika, we ought to get going soon. I'm taking the day off today. Wouldn't you want to be around everybody? Rika, I heard from Keiichi. Are you troubled by something? Kind of, but not really. Hmm? What else is there left to do? Today is the day. It's too late now. But part of me still feels like doing something. I've been in this world only a few days. My emotions went up and down like a roller coaster. Sometimes I felt motivated to fight, and other times I felt desperate and gave up. Even though Keiichi and everyone else showed me such strength, I lacked the iron will to fight against my fate. The most confidence I ever felt was when the dice came up all 6. A fortunate coincidence that was just handed to me. I was hoping to gauge courage to fight against my fate. But here I am today, conceding to destiny. Pt told me we can make a miracle happen if we work together. There was something he didn't teach me. He didn't teach me how to believe in that. If I don't believe that I can make a miracle, I won't be able to make even a crack in the wall of fate. It seems so simple, yet it's so difficult. I couldn't even decide whether I should be on the stage or remain off it as a spectator. I told Hanyu I haven't decided what to do after this world is over. But that's the spectator's point of view. For the people on stage, this world is the only one. For them, the end of the world means the end of their lives. That's why they do anything to change their fate. That's why they can make a miracle happen. I never worked hard enough because I always knew I could reset my life. I thought I was just one pathetic girl who couldn't change her fate. That's why I ended up here again today. It's as if I slacked off on my summer homework and woke up on the last day of vacation with nothing completed. What do I do? Should I not work on my assignment, knowing I'm not going to make it on time anyway? Or should I do whatever I can, even though I still might get in trouble? Perhaps a miracle will happen. Perhaps the homework will be done overnight. Miracles don't happen to homework. I have to do it on my own. With no effort, nothing will ever get done. Without effort, not even one question will be solved. Rika, I think you should spend your day doing what you want to. You can drink by the window all day, just like you do. You're suggesting I shouldn't do anything since you know I'll get in trouble anyway? But Hanyu, it's not about homework. It's more about the vacation itself. The vacation will be over no matter how much I want it to continue. In her eyes, it's pathetic for me to make a big deal out of not completing my homework and contemplating whether I should still work on it or not. On top of that, I'm saying that I might as well die if my vacation's going to be over. If I was in her situation, I'd be laughing hysterically. Keiichi told me to seek everyone's help in order to finish my homework. But I'm not taking that offer. Not only because I don't want to cause them trouble, but because I don't want the teacher to know that I got help from them. If I was going to have regrets, I should have worked on it from the beginning. If I had no intention of working on it, I should have just relaxed without stressing so much. If I didn't care what other people thought, I should have asked for their help in the first place. Those are the 3 options I talked about with Hanyu yesterday. I didn't choose any of them. I've been living for over 100 years, but I still can't decide. My 100 years were wasted. Satoko, I'm not going to school today because I have a cold. Is that so? Do you want me to take your temperature? I need to rest. Did you tell Chi I'm not coming because I'm sick? Rika, are you really sick? Keiichi told me you're worried someone's trying to kill you. I'm very concerned, you realize? Thank you. You should go now, you'll be late. Satoko looked at the clock, then looked back at me. I'm very happy right now. I'm happy I'm back with everyone and I'm living with you again. So, if I lose you, I'll be living in a very sad world. Just think about that. The world without me. Yes, the world without you would be very sad. I never thought about that. I thought that the world ended when I died. I never thought about the world after my death. That was never my concern. So please take care of yourself. It isn't just me. If anything happens to you, everyone will be sad. Satoko. Rika, I'll leave you alone for today, but please talk to me if you have something on your mind. Kind of upsetting how you won't talk to me. Satoko seemed like she wanted to say more, but she looked at the floor instead. I know what she's trying to say. I realize how selfishly I've been living. It was wrong for me to look at this world as a stage play. But it's too late. It's too late now. Satoko left the house in a hurry. Hanyu and I were left alone inside the house. I can tell you want to be alone. I'll disappear until you call for me. Thank you. You're still yourself even after 100 years. You're not 100-year-old transcendent. You deserve to think about your life as a young girl. I don't want to force you to think like a grown-up. It's not your fault, Hanyu. I was just being arrogant. Tell me if you want to talk. You're not crying anymore? You're not gonna beg me to give up? You're a stubborn person. I know it's better not to be too persistent with you. After all these years, you know me very well. I know you're already aware, but let me say this. Today is the day. Do your best. Oh. No matter what you do or don't do, this world's gonna end today. But if you wish for it, you'll see a brand new day just like when the morning comes. You might find yourself back up in June this year, but it'll still be a brand new day. When I was younger, every day seemed so boring. Every morning I thought the same things would happen again after I woke up. This just means that'll end up being true. Let me just tell you to live this day productively. I'm not gonna say anything else to you. I knew today was the day, but it's still difficult to hear that from you. It's gonna come to an end again, huh? Yes. It's going to end again. Just like always. Thank you for the follow, Fragilities. Hanyu disappeared, and it went completely quiet inside the house. How should I spend my day? How should I end this day? Should I work on my homework, knowing I'm not going to make it on time? I only have half a day left. I have to do my best.
Wait, since when did it come half a day?
I should think about what I can do. This world is supposed to be a happy place. People are enjoying their lives. I should have enjoyed my life more too. I don't mean I should have lived my life in blind optimism. It means I should have enjoyed my life by fully experiencing both happiness and sadness. If I did that, I wouldn't be as worried about what to do after my death. I should have simply just lived with all my might. When the time comes, it'll be over. Today, I will live. That's a very important phrase. But it sounds meaningless when I say it. Because I can repeat this meaningless life as many times as I wish.
I thought you couldn't. I thought you were running out of power. Come on, Keiichi, save the day, my friend. My friend, save the day, baby. Alright.
While Satoko was at school, I washed dishes.
Oh, no, you did not. You do not wash dishes on the day you're gonna die. Well, I guess if you plan on coming back, that's different, but still.
Hanyu would usually stay with me when Satoko wasn't around. But she's not here right now. It's been a while since I was all by myself. I never thought anyone could feel so lonely while washing the dishes. I'm going to die today anyway. This world is ending today. Why should I wash these dishes?
Thank you. Thank you, Rika.
That's because I'm thinking about Satoko, who will have to move on with her life after tomorrow. I'll encounter a new Satoko in the next world. But I realized something after hearing what Satoko told me earlier. After I'm dead, I wonder how Satoko will move on with her life.
She's gonna die too because everyone explodes.
The worlds that I've left in the past all went on without me. I wonder if Satoko will be able to cook without me. I wonder if she can go shopping on her own. I wonder if she can wash clothes by herself. I've been avoiding thinking about this, but Satoko and my other friends must have been overcome by sadness. Oh, it's too late for me to think about this, but I started feeling like I want to cry. I'm feeling like this because I don't want to leave this world. This is the world I've always wanted. It's my hope that I can continue to live in this world beyond June 1983. After a long journey, I finally ended up in this world. But I was able to truly live in this ideal world for only one night. The night of Minagoroshi. This world will be shattered again after I die tonight. We finally saved Satoko, and all our friends assume that our happy lives have returned. However, I'm going to die tonight. They will mourn for me. We worked so hard to make a miracle happen. But they're going to lose their happy world in just one day. Am I going to start a new life in the next world as if nothing happened? I lived 3 days in my new world. But 3 sad days were going to pass in this world. That's no good. I can't think straight anymore. I couldn't stop the tears from flowing from my eyes. I hugged Satoko's pillow and cried. I could smell her. After I die, Satoko will probably hug my pillow and cry just like this. Is everyone else gonna cry for me too? I'm sure they will. And they'll be sad. Not about my death. They'll be sad not because I'm dead, but because I never told them what was troubling me so much. I wonder if they'll feel regret. Will they wonder what they could have done to open my heart? What they could have done to help me in my time of trouble? Will they wonder what they could have done to save me? I felt miserable, frustrated. I held Satoko's pillow and continued to cry. And the next moment I heard the phone ring. I tried to ignore it, but it wouldn't stop. I kept the phone, hoping that my friends would call to check on me. However, I heard a weird guy's voice come from the receiver.
Hello? This is... Isn't Okanogi the guy that looks like he's from Australia? This is Okanogi Gardeners. This is the Fruity residence.
Okanogi. It was Okanogi from the Mountain Dogs. It was the first time I'd received a phone call from him.
I'm calling because I have something urgent to ask you. I called the school, but they told me you're sick today. Are you feeling alright?
I'm not alright. This is the day I die. I knew he had no idea, but I still couldn't help feel upset. It's only a cold. I just want to rest today.
Really? Well, that's a very fortunate coincidence.
What? I had no idea what made him say he was glad I was sick. Why is it fortunate for you if I'm home?
Well, we got a tip from Tokyo that someone's planning to murder you.
What do you mean?
Tokyo was investigating the murder of Tomotaki and Takano. Their investigation concluded that there's a high possibility Dr. Irie is pulling the strings. Oh, come on, Rika. You had it the other day.
Yuri is behind everything? This is the first time I've heard something like this. This isn't something that happens at random. It's the very first time. That means it's not just a coincidence. I'm hearing this now because of something I did differently in this world. I've done many different things in this world, though. I can't tell which decision led me to this result. However, maybe this is something that could change my life drastically. Okanogi continued to explain to me there had been budget cuts to the research, and they were scheduled to be shut down within a few years. Irie was strongly against that because he was embezzling their research money by requesting bigger and bigger budgets. Because they were going to cancel the research, he tried to sell the research data and make a lot of money off of it. Is that really true?
I know it's hard to believe, but it is. I always thought he was kind of suspicious myself.
I think I can say that with certainty that Irie is not that type of person. I've been around him for years, and as far as I know, he's not a bad guy. He doesn't even have the guts to be one. He pretends to be cold-hearted for the sake of his research, but he can't shake his regrets. He's simply a nice person. It's hard to believe he was embezzling money from Tokyo.
That's probably what this group is doing. This mountain dog group, which by the way is this dumb name.
I'm starting to be suspicious of Takano, but she's actually a nice person too.
What makes you think that? Also, I just have to say, who would like Takano? It makes me very upset that Takano can get a boyfriend and I can't. Takano literally runs around like drooling over torture. That's not attractive at all.
But she's actually a nice person too. She seemed mean at times, but she could also act as innocent as a child. However, I am starting to suspect her because Oishi told me that the body they found in Gifu might not be Takano's. Okanogi works for Takano. That means I can't trust him. In other words, I can trust Irie because Okanogi is clearly trying to set him up. On the other hand, if Takano isn't guilty, I could be making a huge mistake. Yet, it always seemed to me as though Tomitake and Irie were good friends. If Tokyo had suspected that Irie was embezzling money from them, Tomitake would have treated him far more coldly. Anyway, at the very least, Tomitake of Tokyo didn't have such a bad impression of Irie.
I'm gonna say this again, that's why you should have frickin' followed them. Case solved.
The Irie of the Irie Institute and Tomitake of Tokyo were good friends.
Why do they have to say of Tokyo?
Tomitake and Takano were good friends. Takano and Okanogi were superior and subordinate.
Okay, why? Okay, you don't have to say it multiple times.
But Okanogi says that Tokyo is suspicious of Irie. Doesn't make sense. Everyone seems to be good friends at first glance, but the links don't connect from start to finish. Irie thinks he has a positive relation with Tokyo, but Tokyo is suspicious of him? That's just odd. The chain should be connected, but one of the links is twisted out of order. It's breaking the loop.
Tokyo is conducting further investigations at the moment. We also have information that Irie is trying to use you as a bargaining chip. For that reason, we've been told to tighten up your security starting today. That's why I'm glad you're home right now. There are 20 security guards patrolling the Furude Shrine in 3 shifts. You may not notice, but they're there for you.
That's a lot. How long are you...
What happened?
How long are you going to guard me like that?
Until Tokyo feels like you're no longer in danger. Until this whole case is resolved.
That should have been good news for me, since today was the day I was supposed to die. This is exactly the kind of security I wanted. That's why I let Takano into the storehouse. However, I have a bad feeling about this. Tokyo should be my ally, but that arrangement is just like with Irie's relationship with Tokyo. Everything's in order from my end, but when you trace it the other way, it feels like something's off at some point. I have these uncomfortable feelings because I have a few uncertainties about Tokyo. Tokyo and Irie have strong ties, but they're suspicious of him? Is Irie actually a bad guy? Is Takano still alive and she's the one who killed Tomotake? Those questions made me more uncertain about asking help from Tokyo. I thought Tokyo, as a single organization, would move with a single intention. But in reality, they have multiple different intentions. In other words, there must be multiple, what's the word? I see it in the political section of newspapers all the time. Alright, factions. Are there two factions in Tokyo? One that wants to remain friendly and one that looks down on him? That would explain the irregularities I'm sensing. Maybe I've been talking to Oishi too much? If he hadn't told me he was suspicious of Takano, would I have believed Okanoki without a doubt? Well, maybe not. Even with Oishi's theory, Okanoki still sounded very suspicious. Irie was loyal to his research on Hinamizawa syndrome. Tokyo understood this, so his relationship with Tomotake wasn't particularly strained. Plus, Irie isn't the type of person who would commit embezzlement. He's a law-abiding citizen with good moral character. Of course he has some ambition as a researcher, but that only goes as far as common sense expects any researcher to. It's nothing like the criminal aspirations that would lead to major embezzlement. A great number of the mountain dogs were going to be guarding me. This is what I've wanted in my previous lives, but for some reason I couldn't be happy about it. I couldn't help but feel depressed. If this house is like an empty birdcage, then they'd be the fox with feathers stuck to its face. I don't know if I can really trust the people who are protecting me. I tried to recall more about Okanogi. The mountain dogs have been protecting me for years. Okanogi proved his skills in many of my other lives. To them, I'm something of a special existence. If something happens to me, it would be a disaster. The Irie Institute is there to keep Hinamizawa syndrome under control, and the mountain dogs are there to protect me from evildoers. So why would they try to betray me? I thought about it for a while, but I had no idea. I just know one thing for sure. I can't feel comfortable with the protection of the mountain dogs alone.
Oh, hey, sweetheart.
I want someone other than Tokyo protecting me.
I'm gonna move the camera a little bit since we're Rika-channing.
But I bet such a person wouldn't believe me. Wait, what about Oishi? I've been keeping in touch with him since the other day. He still thinks the mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa are plotted by the village authorities. If he believes that, then he might believe my life is in danger. For him, I'm a special person with lots of useful information. The mountain dogs hate the police, though. When I asked them to assassinate Satoko's uncle, they refused because he was being watched by the police. I would feel relieved if the police were guarding me along with the mountain dogs. That way, the dogs wouldn't be able to harm me even if they were working for an evil faction of Tokyo. Besides that, if my suspicion towards them turned out to be baseless, more protection couldn't hurt. I'm sure that double security will keep me safe. I understand. I'll stay home for today.
Yes, please do. And please don't go into the city and try to pick a fight with delinquents.
Meep. Sorry about that.
Anyway, please take care of yourself.
I have a cold, so may I at least go to the clinic?
You never know what might happen, so please don't go there for a while. I don't want them to inject you with anything suspicious.
Irie would never do anything like that.
That's what we want to believe, but you need to be careful of him until things are cleared up. So I have no choice, huh?
No? You've totally picked up the local dialect, Okanogi.
I used to have a normal Tokyo accent. I like to think I can fix it when asked, though. After all, it's my job to blend in with local culture.
I finished speaking with him. As soon as I hung up the phone, I opened my phone book and looked for the number to the Okonomiya Police Department.
We're gonna move. Are we to Pt1 now? Or we're gonna move the microphone a little closer to me.
It was nearly noon.
Ah.
I felt like the pages of the phone book were sticking to my skin. I must have been in a hurry. I really don't want to die. I want to stay in this world. I don't want to leave this perfect world. I'm trying to do something because I don't want to die. I'm trying to live with all my might. I'm trying to enjoy my life. For the first time, I was spending my last day positively without drinking wine until I was drunk.
Hello? It's Oishi. Sorry for the wait. I was getting ready to leave for Gifu. I was gonna browbeat them until they owed up to botching the case.
Gifu, you're talking about Takano's body.
Yep. My colleagues are convinced that the body's Takano, but I'm still not satisfied. That's why I'm going there myself. If that body isn't Takano, this is going to be a whole different story. We can put out a search for her as a material witness, see? Fortunately, I have a lot of connections in the Gifu Police Department. I'll go have a nice long talk with them.
It looked like Oishi was proactively moving forward with the investigation. If that body is really Takano, that would be sad for her, but it would give me reason to trust the mountain dogs. If it's not Takano, then it would tell me she's part of this whole incident. No matter what the result is, it would give me some kind of hint. But only if I'm still alive. But really, it's unfortunate. Oishi's leaving for Gifu. He can't be around to protect me. Oishi, some stranger called me today. I don't know who it was, but he said he's one of the villagers.
He didn't tell you who he was? I see. Please go on. What did he tell you?
He told me that someone's going to kill me. He said they'd kill me tonight at the earliest.
Is that true? I see. That's not outside the realm of possibility. Let's see. I have to leave soon, but I'll send some officers over there. I'll tell them to keep you safe. You're home right now, right? Do you have a cold or something? Just stay home, lock your doors and windows. I'll send someone over immediately. Oh no, what if they kill the police officers? I mean, clearly they want to kill the whole village because they want to set off whatever the bomb is. What's wrong, Oishi? You'll be late for your appointment. I just got a call from Rika. Someone called to warn her she's gonna be murdered. Someone's trying to kill Rika? But why? I thought she was like the village mascot. It might be a warning for contacting me about the incidents of the village. I don't know if they're really trying to kill her, but she's just a young girl. I'm sure she's very scared right now. Plus, if we lose her trust now, it might hurt our relationship in the future. 2 or 3 officers are enough, but please send them over at once. Also, get a hold of her local officer and have them reassure her some... Yes, sir! Rika might have some kind of hint regarding these deaths in Hinamizawa. Or she couldn't let her die. We should head back as soon as we get to the Gifu Police Department to spill the beans. Hold on, I just gotta see. We should head back to Hinamizawa as soon as we get the Gifu Police Department to spill the beans. This is gonna be a pretty tight schedule for our business trip. It'll be a piece of cake. Skylark. This is Skylark. Local police officer is on the shrine property. He's headed towards Ara's house. Roger, Roger. Continue observation. Encountering R. She let the officer inside. R called the Okonomiya Police Department. She requested protection on her own. Did she tell him about us? She told him she got an anonymous call. I'm sure that's made up. Okonomiya Police Department sending over a few officers. Oh god, I hope the cops don't get killed in the process. What? Doesn't she trust the mountain dogs? This is trouble. I'm trying to do a
This is trouble. It's gonna prove more difficult to continue the mission. Is it possible she somehow found us out? Well, we're probably safe. Just tell the team to be aware of the officers. We don't want them to become suspicious of us. Roger, roger. HQ to all units. There are police officers around the Fude Shrine. Please be mindful of them. We may have to postpone tonight's mission. I'll call her, but I'm sure the Major will order go anyway.
What? Oh, the Major will order it go anyway.
Everything's already set up for R to be discovered dead tomorrow morning so we can move to the next stage. But we don't want the police to suspect us.
Huh. So maybe they do plant some kind of bomb.
If they start suspecting you, just leave quietly.
Oishi called the officers pretty quickly. The officer who was in the area arrived within 10 minutes after I spoke with him. He asked me what kind of phone call I received today. I decided to make up a story. It'll be all over if they check my call history, but I'm sure Oishi wouldn't bother doing anything like that. He thinks I'm worth protecting because I have information about the incidents in Hinamizawa. The policeman is one of the villagers, so I know him very well. More officers are coming here from the Okonomiya department. The officer told me to relax because he'd stay with me until then. Oishi must have thought I was frightened half to death after getting a threatening phone call. After about 30 minutes, 4 officers in plain clothes arrived at the shrine. The local officer returned to his police box.
They should just bring her to the police, you know. We've heard the whole story. We'll guard the shrine, so please call if anything happens. Detective Oishi will be here this evening.
I was relieved to hear Oishi would come here. Thank you very much.
At least one person will be downstairs. I'm sorry, but is it okay if we use your restroom? Also, will you give us one of your spare keys just in case?
Sure, you can use the restroom too. My house is on the 2nd floor of a storage building. The 1st floor contains emergency supplies for the village. I'm happy to know at least one police officer will be there for me. The officers confirmed their positions on the map of the shrine. One will be in the storage, and 2 more will walk around the shrine property.
Is Takano just gonna have him take out the police officers too?
Also, 1 more officer will be standing in front of the stairs that lead to the shrine. This world's Oishi is certainly reliable. In my other lives, Oishi tended to look at me as an enemy.
Whoop!
However, in this world, he thinks I'm on his side. I'm sure it's because we became friendly with him around the time we saved Satoko. It was unfortunate at the time, but perhaps the return of Satoko's uncle was a necessary event. If Okanogi was right about Irie, he wouldn't be able to corner me with nearly 20 mountain dogs and 4 police officers protecting me. If Okanogi is the bad guy, they'd be discouraged from acting by the presence of the police. Not too different from giving garlic to a vampire. This is the best protection I've had in 100 years. Even so, am I still going to be killed tonight? I need to do whatever I can. I should struggle as hard as possible. I won't give up. I won't even think about my next life. That's what enjoying life is about. This is what living seriously is about. Hanyu, are you there?
I'm here.
What do you think about all this?
I have to admit I've never seen anything like this before.
Is it still wrong for me to expect something different this time?
I'm not going to hope for anything. I'll just have to accept whatever the result is.
Hanyu's still acting like a bystander. I knew she was going to say something like that, but part of me was hoping she would say something more positive. Upon hearing her say what she did, I felt a little disappointed. And I wondered why Hanyu refused to be anything but an onlooker. I always thought it was normal for her to be that way because she has a special existence. I also convinced myself I had to be an onlooker too since I was a similar being. However, I can't just let go of everything and become a bystander. I can't become like her. I can't stop hoping for a better life for Rika. That hope was betrayed so many times, and my heart was crushed countless more. That's why I stopped expecting anything to turn out the way I wanted. So is Hanyu the same way? Are you also afraid of being hurt? I've only lived for 100 years, but I know how frightening it is to have high expectations. Hanyu should also be aware of that since she's lived far longer than me. I always thought Hanyu was a special existence. But except for the fact she's invisible, everything about us is the same. She has the same thoughts, feelings as everyone else. Yet I still saw her as a special existence. That's why I just assumed her mind worked in a different way. I've been living for longer than you. I know there are more sad things than happy in this world, and your hopes will always be betrayed. Oh. I think the same thing, which is sad. That's why I don't want to be hurt anymore. So you're not expecting anything from this world either? I still have hope this world might be different, but you think I'll be killed again. Oh, that's not what I'm thinking. Hanyu looked uncomfortable. She had no doubts that I'd be killed again that night. That's what it means to not have hope. She just can't own up to it because she doesn't want to hurt my feelings. You're the same as Satoko. Huh? You're waiting for some stroke of luck or miracle to come help you. You're afraid of fighting. You think that being patient is the same as being strong. That's how I was until a little while ago. Hanyu looked down and bit her lip. She couldn't deny what I said. I know you've heard it over and over. Miracles will not happen unless everyone works together. That means you have to believe too. A miracle won't happen unless everyone believes. What I just said sounded as though I was blaming her for the miracle not happening. Maybe I was too harsh. I stayed quiet and Hanyu continued to look at the floor, shaking. Then she looked up at me and spoke. I noticed sadness, but also a little bit of anger in her eyes. I can't even touch people or talk to them. You think I'm just like everyone else even though all I can do is watch? Do you understand how it feels to not be involved in anything? Ooh. There was a slight severity in the tail end of Hanyu's speech. Except for me, she can't communicate with anyone in this world. She hates to be reminded of that. I am sorry. Let's stop this. I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to spend the rest of the time I'm alive in an argument. I don't want to argue with you either. But let me say one thing. You're my friend. I don't want my friend to tell me not to expect too much out of my life. I'm sorry for that. But you should try respecting my opinions too. She can be very stubborn sometimes. Hanyu seems weak on the outside. But she actually has a very strong moral code. One that she won't bend for anything. She apologized to me, but she wasn't being honest. She still wasn't expecting anything good to come from this world. She still thinks I'm going to die pitifully. That's why she refuses to believe in miracles. I've been living with her long enough to read her mind. I feel bad for her in a sense. She's been living too long and lost all of her hope. Hanyu told me to call her if anything else happened and soon disappeared. I'm sure she's still around. She's probably still watching me as if she's watching a TV show. The time of my death slowly approaching. Will I be able to survive it this time? It's been a long time since I faced this fear without drinking wine.
Also, boo you, Aksaka. Boo you. You are the worst. I was so happy when you were here, and then you just leave after the one Nagashi when Rika told you she was gonna die? What the fuck's your problem, dude?
I was left with nothing else to do after washing the dishes and cleaning the room. The mountain dogs and police were protecting me. Just in case, I figured I should leave something behind for Satoko. Should I write down some recipes for her in the notebook? Will she be happy if I leave a will for her? I laughed at my own foolishness. No one would be happy to read a will. If I die, they'll be devastated and wonder why I didn't talk to them. That's exactly how I felt when Satoko didn't ask for any help when her uncle was abusing her. I wonder, will I be killed before Satoko even comes home?
If that's what you think, then why don't you talk to them?
My memories of these days are never very clear. The day I die is always vague in my recollections. It's fine if I'm murdered before Satoko gets home. But if I'm murdered after, then would they kill her along with me? I don't want that to happen. It's bad enough I already get killed. If Satoko's murdered along with me each time, that would be too much to bear. Just how much have I ignored other people's sadness with that rash idea that the world ends when I die? Thinking about that made me feel truly ashamed of myself.
Don't worry, everybody else dies too.
I turned on the TV and tried to reduce the silence, but it didn't help at all. Worse, not only did the TV not help with my fears, it felt like it symbolized Hanyu and my allies, making me feel even more unpleasant. It was past lunchtime, nearly 3 p.m. School should be out soon. I'm not there today, so they probably won't do a club activity. Satoko should be home shortly. It seems I'm going to survive until she gets home after all. If she comes home and asks me what's troubling me, I might end up telling her the truth. If I talk to someone, that person will be demoned away by the mountain dogs. That's why I've never spoken to anyone about it. I didn't want my friends to get into danger.
So have the mountain dogs been the one doing all the murders, or are they actually separate?
But if Satoko was also murdered likewise in every world because she was involved with me, then we're doomed to share the same fate. It's better to know the truth than to be killed without knowing what's going on. But I'm under very strict security right now. I might be able to survive this world. If that's the case, I should talk to Satoko about it. It won't be so easy to talk to my friends after all. Moments later, I heard a surprised yell of Satoko coming from downstairs. She'd returned. It sounded like she was scared to see a stranger in our home. I'd have to tell her the police were here. That would be tantamount to telling her that someone is out to kill me. I don't know how to explain it to her or how much I should tell her. However, my thoughts were soon interrupted by the noise of a crowd.
Satoko hadn't come home alone. Oh, did she bring the whole village? I'm home. Hey, Rika. What's up with that officer downstairs?
Why is that guy guarding your house? What the heck did you do? Me? That's not the right question. What happened to you, Rika? There were some strangers on the shrine grounds, too.
Are they also police officers? This isn't normal, you know. We don't know what's troubling you, but we're here to cheer you up. It looks like something bad's happening.
I couldn't stop laughing upon seeing everyone rush into my house, all asking the same questions. It made me feel as though being depressed all day had just been a waste of time.
Rika, what on earth is so funny? You need to explain what's going on.
There's nothing to explain. I'm getting murdered today.
What?
Everyone already knew that I'd been telling people about how I was going to be killed, but they weren't surprised to hear it from my own mouth.
Rika, I heard that yesterday. You told me you think someone's trying to kill you, but I thought it was one of your jokes. Now that you're not fooling at me anymore, you have to talk to us.
Keiichi spoke with a harsh tone, as though I made him upset. As my friend, he must think it's unforgivable that I didn't talk to him about it. I wasn't the only one feeling that way, though. Every single one of them was looking at me with worried expressions on their faces.
Rika, everybody here saved me. I want to do something for my friends as well.
I'm glad to hear that.
Remember what you told me? You told me to have the courage to fight. But just look at you. You're not even fighting yourself.
Satoko pointed out something I already realized. I had no way to argue back.
Technically, she called the police, so she's sort of fighting.
You told me that. You put us in danger by talking to us. But all of us are already involved, no matter if you talk to us or not.
That's right. We're your friends. If you're in danger, all of us are in danger too. When Satoko was in danger, we all fought for her, remember? It's the same thing.
If your life is in danger, then I think it's time for the Sonosaki family to step in.
We're way more reliable than the police. Isn't that right, sis? That's right. You have to talk to us. What kind of trouble are you in? Who the hell is threatening to kill you? Based on how you're acting, I assume you don't even know who it is. If you did know, it wouldn't be as big of a problem.
Beep. You're all so smart. You know everything even though I haven't talked to you yet.
This is no time for jokes, Rika. You must talk to us. What happened? What's this all about? You don't call the police until you're really in danger, no? How dare you talk to the police before talking to us?
That seems a little odd. I think if your life is in danger, calling the police is probably more important than talking to your friends. It's like if you're running away from a mob, like there's someone that's like chasing you, and you call your friend first before you call the police. You're like, hey, best friend, I'm being chased right now. Can you help me?
Is the cause something you're uncomfortable talking to us about? Rika wouldn't have the issue that would be uncomfortable to talk about.
Calm down, Satoko. Rika's the leader of the Furude family. She's worshipped as the reincarnation of Oyashiro in this village. She might have been in trouble for a long time, even though we didn't even know about it. Maybe she just didn't want to talk to us because we're all trying to have a fun life in this village. That's probably what it was, right?
So it has something to do with Rika-chama in the village?
It must involve those crazy old people who worship Oyashiro-sama.
So it must have something to do with the curse, then.
I know. I bet it's related to what happened with Toмотaki and Takano.
Why would Tomotake's murder cause Rika's life to be in danger? That's too big of a leap.
It's crazy to think someone is trying to kill her anyway. Rika's bound by obligations than we know, and she probably couldn't talk about them. I'm right, aren't I? It's not a very fun topic, which is why you couldn't tell your friends, right?
I can't believe this. Is it really true, Rika? Is it really true you're involved in Tomotake's murder case?
I remained silent, but with my mouth open. I hadn't answered any of the questions, but they continued to ask, and had eventually hit the nail on the head. It was more surprising than anything. Then again, these are, after all, my beloved clubmates. I laughed once more. My issues and my secrets are so devastating to me, but they stopped sounding like such a big deal when everyone talked about them together. They knew exactly what was going on with me without saying a word. In that moment, I realized just how powerless I am. I had to tip my hat to them. Everything seemed so foolish now. And so, I decided to just tell them everything. If you want me to talk, I will. But I'm sure you won't believe me.
We will. As long as you tell us the truth, we'll never doubt it.
Everyone's expressions turned grave as they vowed not to make light of anything I told them. And so, I'm going to tell them everything. I want to see if they really will believe me or not. In that case, I'll tell you. I think I'm being targeted by the same person who killed Tomatake and Takano.
Then, are they the true culprit behind these deaths?
I don't know about that, but it is possible.
I don't understand. Why would Tomatake and Takano's murderer also want to kill Mika?
Oishi thinks Takano's the culprit. Okunogi thinks Irie is the culprit. Either way, it sounds like someone from Tokyo is trying to kill me. I can't tell if it's Takano or Irie, but I do know that to them, I'm like a trump card. In order to explain everything, I need to talk to them about the relationship between Hinamizawa, Tokyo, and the Irie Clinic. I don't think they'll believe me. It's such a ridiculous story. But who would ever believe it if not my friends? You'll all be in danger if I talk to you about this. Are you sure you still want to hear it?
Of course. If you're in danger, we're in danger. Everyone nodded at Keiichi's words.
Well then. I'm going to see how everyone reacts. I'm going to ascertain what friendship is all about. With a nod of my own, I open my mouth and begin to explain.
Ooh, here we go. Finally.
There's a disease unique to Hinamizawa. I'm not sure what it's officially called, but I've always known it as the Hinamizawa syndrome. Everyone glanced back and forth at each other when I mentioned the term. They'd never heard of it before. The name Hinamizawa syndrome has actually been around since before the war. It's the general term for the severe homesickness and mental instability that people from Hinamizawa experience when outside the village. People in Hinamizawa have refused to leave the village since the era of Onikafuchi. The villagers believed that they'd be cursed by Oyashiro-sama if they left, and the people who did often came back because of that curse. In general, it used to be thought of as only severe homesickness. But during the time of the war, soldiers from Hinamizawa became mentally deranged in faraway places. That does sometimes happen in war. What was unique about the soldiers from Hinamizawa was that the way they killed their own comrades and committed suicide at the end. One doctor became curious about these cases and studied those soldiers. That's when they found out it was actually a disease only found in Hinamizawa. According to this doctor, their strange behavior was not the result of culture, it was a mental disease triggered by external circumstances. A mental disease with external cause is different from psychological illness. It's the result of some kind of physical disorder, and it causes people to become unstable when something triggers it. There are 3 categories of externally caused mental diseases: traumatically induced, substance abuse induced, and chemical imbalance induced. Traumatically induced disorders are cases resulting from damage to the brain from trauma or infection that influences the mind. This is the reason personalities can change as a result of head injuries. Substance abuse, as the name suggests, refers to cases where drugs, especially alcohol or stimulants, have influenced the mind. The last category is chemical imbalance. These are cases where some ailment in the patient's body causes abnormal secretions of bodily chemicals which then influence the brain's functions. This may sound odd, but it is said that people tend to become depressed when they have a cold. We've all experienced the ways in which physical sickness can cause a buildup of negative emotions. However, with chemical imbalances, the cause is more direct. People's emotions aren't born from our hearts. Everyone should know logically that there is a result of chemicals secreted by the organs in our body as necessary. So when the organs operating the secretion of those emotional controllers malfunction, it causes them to secrete abnormal amounts. The thyroid gland, for example, secretes hormones that regulate emotions. When that gland is defective, the balance of those hormones become unstable. Can cause people not only to have a physical sickness, but also mental sickness such as depression. People don't get mentally ill just because of mental problems. Human beings are made out of meat. We get mentally ill when that meat is defective. The doctor studying Hinamizawa syndrome also came up with a theory. He suggested that there's a pathogen endemic to Hinamizawa that, if its host stray too far from home, affects the chemicals in their brain and causes them to hallucinate. The villagers' belief in Oyashiro-sama is certainly related to this endemic disease. People in Onigafuchi village knew about this syndrome. They knew they couldn't survive outside the village. They also didn't want anyone to enter the village because they would get infected too. They took this disease as a curse, not as a sickness. The most significant symptoms of the disease are antisocial behavior and an extreme persecution complex. The eventual suicide caused by defects in the lymph nodes are also another unique characteristic. The unusual behavior of terminal patients is what inspired the legend of the demons coming out of the swamp and attacking villagers. Basically, sick villagers developed severe persecution complexes and wound up killing other villagers. After a long time, survivors of the disease started to comprehend its rules. They discovered that the disease is incurable once you contract it. That's why they started barring outsiders from entering the village. Also, once you become ill, you will begin developing a persecution complex. This can happen to anyone in the village. The doctrine of Oyashiro says that the blood of humans and demons was mixed together, and that Oyashiro has control over the violent blood of demons. People said you'd be cursed if you didn't follow Oyashiro-sama's rules. That could also be understood to mean that as long as you followed Oyashiro's rules, you could cope with this endemic disease. That's what it was meant by the scripture in Oyashiro-sama's legend that they said appeared, unified the humans and demons, and made them live together in this village. Then there was the most important part, the rules to prevent symptoms from appearing. Those rules are taboo, and people were strictly taught that Oyashiro-sama would curse them if they broke these rules. The horrible, bloody traditions of the village were probably performed in order to force people to respect these taboos. There are several ways to keep the disease under control, but there are two main conditions for doing so. The first is to prevent suspicion. When the villagers are suspicious of someone, it can trigger their persecution complex, which can lead them to developing terminal symptoms. That's why they made sure to have a tightly knit community so the people wouldn't suspect each other. Since the terror of Oyashiro-sama's curse is emphasized, many don't know this, but she's also a god of marriage and neighborly love. However, this condition is not as important as the other one. Indeed, Oyashiro-sama isn't even recognized as a god of friendship in Hinamizawa anymore, and is only worshipped as such in Okonomiya's Hirasaka district. Now for the other condition. This one was much clearer. It was practiced more strictly. If villagers leave Hinamizawa, they will fall ill quickly, proportional to the distance from the village. Villagers nowadays will not get sick as rapidly, even if they leave town or even go out of the country for a long time. However, long ago they would fall ill as soon as they left the village. That part also doesn't make any sense. It's very unfortunate that Keiji got infected so soon after he moved to the village. It is also very unfortunate he got sick just because he left the village for a few days to go to his relative's funeral in that one world. That's why Hanyu felt so bad for him that time, and kept apologizing over and over. Although no matter how much she apologized, he never heard her voice. This turned into a long discussion, but these rules, etched around Oyashiro-sama's curse, represent the ancient wisdom of how to cope with the Hinamizawa syndrome. Is there any way to use this mental disease for military purposes? The aforementioned doctor insisted there was, but the military didn't listen to him at all at the time. They were interested in developing a weapon that could make a dramatic change to the war efforts. They didn't have any money to spare for this research of this strange disease. In this way, research on Hinamizawa syndrome was abandoned. We're just gonna pretend that there's a supernatural aspect behind it as well, and that will make me feel much better. Then the war ended. Japan started its reconstruction under American leadership. I'm gonna have to ask on Reddit. Although there's probably, I don't know. However, some people in the political world didn't want to accept the American way of thinking. Some of them were fired by the GHQ, but they still stayed on as advisors to the government since Japan has a culture of respecting the elderly. Eventually, a political organization was formed, the object of which was to restore Japan to the way it was before the war. In the beginning, this organization was a very small group. It was just a gathering of 2 or 3 individuals who shared the same ideals blowing hot air at a restaurant. Those 2 or 3 hit it off with each other and grew to the size of a class reunion. That group became a rather sizable organization, eventually becoming a political one. Well, it would be more accurate to call them a secret society. This secret society eventually came to be called the name of the place where it was based, Tokyo. Okay, that makes so much more sense. That makes so much more sense. There are many mysteries about Tokyo. One thing I know for sure is that it's composed of old men from Japan's political stage, ones with strong power to indirectly influence the government and vast assets that meant they could work from the shadows. They were also connected to various corporations, and their goal was to return Japan to the way it was before the war. Of course, that was a pretty ridiculous goal. It was nothing more than an idea in their minds immediately after the war, back when they were still bowing their heads to the occupation forces of those white barbarians. What the hell? Once Japan's post-war reconstruction began, Tokyo steadily became a shell of its former self. But it didn't totally become a shell, it killed the fat. Japan regained its peace and years passed. However, some people still continued to believe that Japan had been better before the war, and they were determined to return the country to those times. So this Tokyo plotted how to restore pre-war Japan from many angles. They approached the problem economically, internationally, and militarily as well. Japan has no nuclear armaments due to the 3 non-nuclear principles. In other words, this country has to brown-nose America as long as they hold nuclear weapons. The number 1 priority of Tokyo is to become independent from America. They want this country to be on equal footing, and to obtain a weapon of mass destruction that isn't nuclear in nature. This was the reason why they started thinking about utilizing Hinamizawa syndrome. However, they couldn't study this disease openly. I'm just gonna point it out right here. I had a feeling from the start that this was some kind of non-paranormal thing. But I'm gonna say, it would actually be far more entertaining if it was paranormal or supernatural. I would be much more... I just think it's more interesting. Right. In order to utilize it for military purposes, they had to hide the existence of the disease itself. So they enlisted one young researcher, Kyosuke Irie. I need to make it clear that Irie isn't some far-right supporter of this secret society. He's just a young, capable doctor and an earnest researcher. He published an innovative thesis, but other academics thought it was too radical. However, that convinced Tokyo that he was the only researcher suitable to study Hinamizawa syndrome. As someone young and ambitious, Irie was thrilled to take on the project of studying this rare disease with a large budget, a large staff in his own facility. But researching the disease would mean he'd end up infected too. No one would want to take on such dangerous research. He really was too young. With his other option being wearing down his youth working hard at night shift for local practice, he wanted to answer the expectations of the sponsor who carefully selected him. In the end, Irie was able to uncover that, as hypothesized, the Hinamizawa was a unique infectious disease, and he developed both a treatment and a vaccine. Irie was extremely talented. The Irie Institute was formed to study the disease.
You're saying they didn't have a hospital before that? That's awful. Or they didn't have a clinic before that? That's awful.
Irie was nominally the head of the organization, but Tokyo still sent out a supervisor because when all was said and done, he was just a researcher. That supervisor was Mio Takano. Takano's job at the institute was to act as a go-between for Tokyo and Irie, manage the research process, and preserve its secrecy. The latter was the more important part of her job. She had to do her best to prevent the people from finding out that Irie was researching the disease, or even that disease exists at all. The Mountain Dogs were formed for that purpose. They were under Takano's command, and their job is to prevent the Institute's secrets from being discovered. The Mountain Dogs are one special forces unit specializing in unconventional warfare owned by Tokyo with its vast influence on the SDF. Tokyo had set their eyes on the likelihood that a small elite squad of covert operatives would be a trump card in this anti-nuke area. So they vigorously investigated these options. This was a worldwide trend since the Cold War. Everyone avoided sending troops directly to their enemy doorstep. Japan was also trying to be a part of that world. As a result, by 1983, even the police had been forming secret special forces units. Prefectural Police Squad 2, the ones who intervened when Reina laid siege to her school, changed their name to Zero Company and grew into an anti-terrorism squad that handled hijackings around the Kansai airport area. The National Police Agency Squad 6 was formed as a counter-terrorism squad for the Narita Airport 2, and they later changed their name to the 7th Company as well. They theorized that in a world where nations possess nukes, they can't use small elite special forces disrupting metropolitan areas would be the new way of waging war. So in 1977, they developed the SAT predecessor, the Special Task Force, set to serve as the National Police Trump Agency card in securing the peace. In anticipation of unconventional warfare on the coast, there are several known special forces in Japan. When they hear a phrase like Special Forces, most people tend to think of a movie or comic book. However, these units actually exist and are protecting Japan in secret. During the famous incident of suspicious boats off the coast of Noto Peninsula, the news reported that the helicopter squad trained in gun battles was headed there, but was recalled because the suspicious boat sank. But that was because the Coast Guard SST acted. However, the news never mentioned the SST or other special unit forces. All of these units were established after Tokyo made a suggestion about it to the government. Researching military tactics in the name of peace and order worked perfectly for Tokyo. But since the mid-century anti-war movement made people resent their forces, these special units have been kept in secret as of 1983. Furthermore, these units are not all formed under the jurisdiction of the police. There are still many other military units that are kept secret from the average citizen. The Mountain Dogs are actually one of those special units. They specialize in kidnapping, espionage, and preserving secrecy. You might as well call them an assassination unit. They were around during the dam conflict as well. Tokyo worked to put an end to the dam project because of the impact it would have on Irie's research. The Mountain Dogs were the ones who kidnapped the Minister of Construction's grandson. Most people believe the Sonozaki family was at the center of the movement, but in reality, the Mountain Dogs were responsible for many of the things the Sonozakis were accused of. In that sense, the existence of the Sonozaki family was an advantage to the dogs. Their main job after the dam conflict had ended has been to continue keeping the disease hidden from the public. With the spread of information networks in the modern age, the media jumped onto any unusual incident and quickly aired it to the whole nation. Tokyo doesn't want the disease to be known nationwide since they're trying to utilize it for their own purposes. The main task of the mountain dogs is to kidnap people suffering from the Hinamizawa syndrome. They pose as gardeners, but in actuality they patrol the village to make sure nothing strange happens. They're the ones who demon away people who go missing. They're probably also involved in some of the mysterious deaths too. The last important person is Jiro Tomitake. I don't know his real name. He was an auditor who was sent from Tokyo 4 times a year. He came to check on the progress of the research and outline requests from Tokyo. He discussed the research budget with Irie too. He also got the observation report on Irie from Takano. That was his purpose. Irie started studying the autopsy results of dead villagers, and he discovered many answers from that. In 1979, the mountain dogs kidnapped the culprit behind the murder of the construction chief, who was a terminally ill patient of Hinamizawa syndrome. The nature of the disease was dramatically clarified. Their research made rapid progress after that, and they discovered a vaccine, medication, and other methods of treatment for the disease. At the same time, they continued to investigate how to utilize it for military purposes. One of the interesting findings of the research was that the pathogen can only be found when the patient is still alive. On top of that, they couldn't detect the presence of the pathogen at all unless they used a certain inhumane method. In other words, it's virtually impossible to detect the pathogen by normal means. It left almost no trace, and the unusual symptoms it produced seemed like voluntary behavior, and so they concluded that the disease could be used to their advantage. However, Tokyo has been going through some changes. It's been almost 50 years since the war ended. The leaders in the shadow behind Japan's government who ruled from the center of Tokyo began growing infirm and opening up seats, steadily passing on their leadership to new generation. The whole organization started to shift. Of course, the purpose of Tokyo has stayed the same. It's still a secret society of ultra-nationalists who want Japan to be at top of the world. However, their ambition to start a war with America and take over the world has diminished. Tokyo has directed its priorities towards the economy, internal affairs, international affairs, and education. That doesn't mean those ambitions had gone entirely, however. Several seniors still alive retain those ambitions. Tokyo continues to finance military research. But for the present day, Tokyo, Irie's research is actually something of an embarrassment. The new Tokyo is no longer interested in this project, and they announced that they're going to cut their budget as soon as the seniors pass away. However, Irie objected to that plan. He strongly appealed for the continuation of his research. That is what Okanogi was talking about. Irie is in disagreement with Tokyo. Irie's research has been making great progress. They've discovered various treatment and testing methods, and even he's starting to develop a treatment plan for the whole village. If they cut his funding, Irie research would end without any results. Toki had a discussion with Irie through Tomitake, and they decided to shut down his research partially but not fully. However, they told him to immediately stop researching military applications of the disease and destroy all research data related to that. He had little interest in weaponizing the disease anyways, so Irie accepted those terms right away. Tokyo probably believed that it was better to let him find a cure for the disease than to terminate the project entirely. At this point, Irie considers himself one of the villagers. Perhaps exterminating the disease infecting the villagers without their knowledge is his way of atoning for using the village to advance his research and reputation. Both Tokyo and Irie agreed to fully terminate his research as soon as he discovered a way to completely eradicate Hinamizawa syndrome. Both Tokyo and Irie agreed to fully terminate his research as soon as he discovered a way to completely eradicate Hinamizawa syndrome. Irie made a plan for the next 3 years, and he promised them that he would find a resolution by 1986 at the latest. The meeting they had this June was to discuss the plan and budget for the next 3 years. Which brings us back to the beginning. One theory goes that Irie is in opposition with Tokyo, and as his trump card, he's planning to kill Rika. That doesn't make sense. I don't understand how Rika ties into that at all. The other theory is Takano killed Toмотake, and as her trump card, she's going to kill Rika. I suppose I need... Oh, thank you. To explain why Rika can be a trump card. The answer to that lies in the ancient traditions of Hinamizawa. Supposedly, members of the Furude family have the blood of Oyashiro in their veins. I explained earlier that Oyashiro-sama was made up as a method for having people to cope with the disease. However, that's actually not true. For the demons, the pathogens to survive, a certain being must be present. That being is the successor of the Furude family line. The truth behind the advent of Oyashiro-sama and the coexistence of humans and demons is that Oyashiro is actually the queen of the village. According to Irie's research, Rika is adored by the whole village not only because she's a charming little girl, but she's a queen carrier. Infected patients are unconsciously driven to protect their queen. So stupid. Irie says that this is done with pheromones. Rika's mother was also adored by everyone since she was little. However, as soon as she gave birth, people's attention quickly shifted to Rika. Irie calls it succession of the throne. The queen is a precious existence to people in this village. There are theories the carriers of the disease are actually unable to survive when away from the queen, not from the village itself. Irie's research indicates that the queen can only survive in Hinamizawa, and infected patients can only stay alive when they're around her. But this is just a theory. Surprisingly, however, the doctor who first discovered the syndrome was also aware of the existence of the queen. They make them all sound like bees now. It just sounds so stupid. Okay. The doctor was also knowledgeable about Hinamizawa's culture, and he was interested in how much value the village placed on the Furude family. He theorized that the queen lying in the Furude bloodline might have the power to manipulate the whole village. The truth is still unknown, but perhaps the Furude family really has held such power since ancient times. Miraculous power that would make them perfect for serving in priesthood. Although the only thing Rika can do is be doted upon by the villagers. If all this is true, then the question is what would happen if the queen disappeared from the village? During the war, a doctor prophesied that if the queen were to die, then all the infected would show terminal symptoms, and the whole village would be wiped out. He advocated for strict preservation of the queen's host. Rika is important to Tokyo not only because Irie found many answers after running tests on her body. If Rika dies, then 2,000 people in Hinamizawa will turn into demons. It would happen too fast for people to even realize that they're getting sick. They will be overcome with a violent persecution complex and start killing each other out of fear. This is why the mountain dogs are protecting the queen Rika. Her death spells the end of the whole village. That's why Rika's the trump card for those who know that she's the center of the whole epidemic. This is the story of Hinamizawa. Our tale begins in June 1983. Tokyo's liaison, Toмотake, was found dead of the disease even though he was vaccinated against it. On the same night, Takano was also kidnapped and murdered. If they have vaccines also, why have they not given them to the villagers? Though I don't know for sure if she's really dead or not. Rika is also going to be murdered soon enough. While I've suspected Irie and Takano, this was my first time doubting Tokyo. I always thought they were on my side. They had to be. My death would lead to nothing but disaster. At the same time, there might be people within Tokyo who could use my death as a trump card. I never considered that there were opposing factions within Tokyo. I guess I wasn't naive enough to not realize that Tokyo had internal problems due to the generation gap. Anyways, I wouldn't be feeling this way if I didn't suspect that Takano might still be alive. I feel like I'm starting to see the greater picture. It's possible, too, that Takano was the victim and Irie is the bad guy. The mountain dogs might be on my side, or they might be assassins who are trying to kill me. I was too scared to choose a wine that might be at risk of having something poisonous mixed in which case I could rest reassured with a fresh, unopened bottle, even if it was a little bad. After telling everything to my friends, I realized I could only trust them and the police. I'm really dumb. I thought I was thinking so hard, but I never actually understood anything. After all this time, I made things clear just by talking about it. I never had thought it would have made such a big difference.
Episode